What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Jessica Pimentel is here. Jessica
Hi.
is in Orange is the New Black. Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about your life. Let's wind it back to Brooklyn.
Sure.
Native of Brooklyn, grew up here in New York.
Yep.
What do you remember most about your time in Brooklyn?
I still live in Brooklyn, so it's not much to forget. It keeps going. I mean, I love where I grew up. I grew up in Cobble Hill. It's a really mixed, beautiful neighborhood, historic, very close to Brooklyn Heights, which is one of the most beautiful, historic, oldest parts of New York. Very close to Manhattan. You can see it from your window. Very diverse, different economic backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds. So I feel like I got such a great cultural upbringing growing up in that area.
And parents immigrated from the Dominican Republic,
Yes,
so like you said, just a complete melting pot there.
Complete melting pot, absolutely.
And what was it like for them when they first came over?
I mean, for my mom, it was a little difficult. She was very young when she came here, so she was about 11 or 12.
Wow.
So it was a big cultural shock, like concrete and snow.
A little bit different than the DR,
English.
Right? English, yeah.
Yeah, so it was it's hard to leave everything you know, especially at such a young age, to come to, as almost completely different, aesthetically different environment as you can. So, but she did well.
So I've read the stories about your music career, going back to when you were like 2-3 years old, right?
Yeah.
So how much time a week were you spending playing the violin and just immersing yourself in music?
Hours. I would play before school. I would play sometimes during school if there was some kind of lunch program, orchestra, something, music time. I would play after school. I had private lessons, and then on the weekends I had chances to play with chamber music orchestras and the citywide orchestra, Brooklyn Borough-wide orchestra. So that was really just my passion, my hobby, and just a place to be, something to do, and it's something that I loved, so I couldn't even begin to count the hours.
And so were you totally all into it, or were there other people kind of forcing you into it?
I mean, it kind of just happened. My mother was working for the Board of Education. Someone had left or resigned, and they had left a bunch of things in the office, and they knew that my mother had a small child, and they found this little violin there and said, hey, maybe your daughter would like to play with this thing, and brought it home, and I was killing it like a cat. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. It turns out my next door neighbor was a concert violinist, and he was done suffering with hearing these horrible notes next door, knocked on the door and taught me how to tune it, taught me how to play it, so on and so forth. And then things just kind of evolved from there. I started playing in an after-school program, and I felt like I was bored because I had been playing already along to records and Bach and Mendelssohn and things like that when I was little. So here I am, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I'm like, I already know how to do it.
You're like, can we go to the next level now?
Right, so I auditioned for the Rooster School of Music in Brooklyn, and they gave me a scholarship for there, and I got private lessons. I got to work with chamber orchestras. I got to sit in on big professional productions. I got to play out all around the city.
Carnegie Hall,
Carnegie Hall. I got to do things like barge music and just local feasts and festivals, like New York feasts and bands play. So I would get to do all that stuff. So I love it. I love it.
And so when was the last time you picked up a violin?
Actually, the last time was a couple of weeks ago, but I did play violin, special guest violins on an album for this Swedish electronica band called Valhall. And they let me just compose my own line over their music. It's really kind of a beautiful, sexy, dark soundtrack electronica. So if you're into kind of that little, matrixy vibe.
It's pretty niche, I feel like, right there.
Yeah, it was kind of perfect. I was looking to play again, and I really loved this band, and they had been looking to do something different. They saw that I had played violin, and they were looking for strings that weren't on a keyboard, because there's something very different of a human playing it as opposed to coming out of a machine. Even if you put the human through a machine eventually, there's something that can't be expressed through the machine. So we contacted each other, and somehow it worked out, and I just love it. It's the album's called Grimoire, so I got to play on that. I mean,
That's awesome.
It was a dream come true.
Definitely. So speaking of dreams come true, in high school,
Yes.
High School for Performing Arts.
Fame.
And that's fame, exactly.
Yeah.
So what was most memorable about that experience for you?
Fame. You're in fame, pretty much. I remember, you see the TV show and the movie, and you're like, is it really like that? I mean, it wasn't exactly like that. But it was really cool to be in a place where a child who feels that they are more creatively adept gets to express themselves. They're not there. Of course, there was emphasis placed on the academics, on math, on science, and I got to do all those things, AP classes and all that, and the teachers were excellent in those academic fields. But there's something really special for someone who has music in their soul as a young kid, especially when you're going through that teen angst time, where you need everything is so heavy.
Perfect outlet.
The perfect outlet. You could spend half of your day writing, life is so heavy, whatever. or dance if you have that movement in your body, or sing, or draw, paint. It's just something so special because so rarely do we in our lives get to do what we love. Especially spending half of your day doing what you love, and you're encouraged to do it, you're supported to do it, and it makes you want to do it. You flourish that way. So it was really a beautiful experience going to that school.
And I think it's cool because you still get to tap into that today, doing all the music that you still do.
Yeah.
So tell me about this left turn you make with the heavy metal, because I think it's
Is
fascinating.
it left?
I mean, left, right, whichever way you want to call it.
Straight ahead.
I mean, basically, you're somebody that was classically trained.
Yeah.
And talking about Bach and Mendelssohn, and then now it's a totally different world. So how do you make that turn,
Is it
whichever
really?
way it is?
I mean, music is music. And Bach and Mendelssohn and Mozart, there's the power there. You have those arpeggios. You have those riffs, right? You have that something there where you get in a sweeping guitar solo. Talk about Yngwie Malmsteen, who's made a career of playing Bach and is a metal guy. But I mean, also there's something in metal music that you can't get from classical that comes from that electronification. Is that a word?
It's a big word. We'll just roll with it.
Electronifyingness. By that distortion, by that the new way of playing chords that are not necessarily standard to our ears in pop culture or let's say American songbook culture, something like that. You have just this brutal kind of thing that if you're a disgruntled urban teenager might kind of speak to you, or if you're some kind of lonely suburban kid that feels like you have no future, you might want to hear a little cha-chunk. It might make you feel better. Now cha-chunk means Netflix, but there's something very satisfying about that kind of really aggressive volume,
Definitely.
even sonically, that even if you're playing something that is really pretty and melodic and delicate, coming through those electronic waves makes it something quite different.
Definitely. So you had all of these musical experiences in your life, the
Yes.
theatrical experiences.
Yes.
When do you put it all together that I want to do this as a career and let's give it a shot?
I've never felt like it was a decision. It's just something that I do. It's who I am. It's what I do. There were times that I considered leaving the arts in pursuit of a more kind of stable work environment. I was going to go work for Microsoft and fix computers, and I thought that's a great job. I love going through that regedit for hours and hours and reprogramming strings, and I love that stuff. But my mom kind of was not really happy about it. She's like, you weren't put on this earth to fix computers, If you want to do that, do it in your spare time. But I had at some point just became frustrated of this constant hustle of rejection, and you keep going and going and going. But eventually you have to realize that if you choose a career in the arts, there is no end game, there is no goal, there is no finish line. That's what it's always going to be.
Just keep going.
So once you get to that point and realize that, then things, it's easier to just settle back. Because it's true, if you just, for me, if I would have just decided to take that job with that number for this many years and you have your security, I would still want to do the artistic thing because it is who I am. It's not a hobby. It's not a pastime. It is my
in your
being.
soul.
It's
Yeah.
my energy, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So you have this in your soul, yet there are these challenges early in your career.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing Romeo and Juliet and touring around. You're doing TV shows and
Yeah.
movies here and there. So what were the biggest challenges at that point when you're contemplating maybe leaving the industry altogether?
I mean, the biggest challenge is being a Latina actress. That's a huge challenge. There aren't very many roles for us, so sometimes you have to, pick and choose, figure out what where you fit in. Then there's the age. Being an actress is much different than being an actor, because then you're too young for the mom, you're too old for the mom, you're too old for the teenager, you're too young to have a teenage daughter, your mom is only 1 year older than you in the show. Like, there's so many things as regards of age and beauty and size. And if you're not 0, if you're not 85 pounds, if you're 130, if you're a little curvier, that might not be more acceptable. So there's so many different factors as far as that is concerned. And so the competition for us is even much greater, because there are so fewer parts for us to go for. So hopefully that's something that is changing. I see changing in shows like Vita and what's the One Day at a Time, and
Exactly. So there are more shows like
there
that.
are more shows.
Listen, the industry still has a long way to go.
I agree.
But you think about even the last 5 years in the industry, even the last year in the industry, just women being able to talk up about equal pay, women sharing their stories about harassment in the past. It's
Absolutely.
just everything is out in the open in a way in which it wasn't maybe even when you began your career.
Thank goodness. No, it absolutely was not. It was like things like Me Too. It would be, we kind of know, like, this person, he's handsy. And that would kind of be the end of the discussion. It's like, deal with it.
Right, it's all hush-hush.
Yeah, but I'm so happy that that's out.
Yeah, no question. That, first of all, that stuff shouldn't be happening. Second of all, it needs to be out in the open, because if you're not privy to those hush-hush conversations, and
then what do you know, especially if you're a young actress, up-and-comer, which I'm sure almost every actress has had this at least one uncomfortable situation where you wish you could call your mom.
Was there one for you?
Absolutely there was. Absolutely there was.
How old were you at that point?
I believe I was, let me see, I think I was like 21 or 22, something like that. And I had done a film, and basically it was time to wrap things up. And when it was time for me to leave, the director at the time just gave him a card and a gift and a kiss on the cheek and a hug, and thanked him for the opportunity. And he said, "That's all I get." And we can leave the story at that, but I handled it. But I don't know if every other actress in that position would have been able to handle it as well as I feel that I did. I think because I'm a New York, Brooklyn strong
just think about
strong
your childhood and
girl.
what you grew up around.
Yeah, so I was able to put that person in their place, and never worked with them again. But I could see so many other young actresses and actors who either they want the fame, which is not something that I ever was chasing, even though I went to fame. It's not something that I was after,
exactly,
because that may cloud your judgment. And also, if you're green, if you're from some place that you don't really have that kind of wheeler, dealer, hustler mentality or survivor mentality, I can see how very easily that position of power could turn into something very ugly very quickly. So I'm glad that this is all out in the open.
Yeah, no question about it. So you mentioned before about just the limited number of roles for Latina women.
Yeah.
So with Orange is the New Black, it comes into your rearview mirror, and this is as stereotypical as it gets for some Latina women in terms of going to prison, having a baby, and just a lot of different layers to this character.
Believe me, when I first got the first call, because I went in for several roles, when I got the first call, it was, "We have a show for you. It's this casting agent, Jen Houston. She loves you, and I've seen her for years. I've been reading for her for years. She really wants to see you for the show. It's going to be on the computer." So I was like, "Wow, I have a degree in theater. I'm going to be reading for a computer." That's okay. What is it? It's in jail. And I was like, here we go.
You're like, "I've heard this one.
I've heard this one." So then there were several characters passed by, but then this had been going on for a while. I think I read for 2 characters, possibly 3.
Okay.
2, possibly 3. And I think Maria was the 3rd or the 4th. But I had been going back and forth with this other show that I thought I had, So I saw myself on that show. I was so psyched about it. But I didn't get it, right? And I was calling my manager to tell her that I think that it might be time to go to Microsoft now, but let me get 6 months to think about it. And she said, "That's so funny. I was just going to call you, have one more audition. Can you just do this one last one? Jen wants to see you. She has another role just popped up. Please, she loves you. Just go in, and then that will be your last one till you decide that you're ready to come back." I said, "Great." It's like, "It's tomorrow at 12:30. I was like, "Can we make it 12? It's like, why? Because there's a sale at Sephora. It's my birthday month, and I want my presents. I don't want to miss my Sephora time. So whatever. What is it? The jail show. She's like, yes, it's the computer show.
So you literally prioritized Sephora.
Yes, I was done.
You were done.
I was done. I had just devoted like weeks and weeks to this other show that I thought was going to change my life forever.
Right. And
then they were like, nice meeting you. Bye. 8 weeks,
thanks,
great.
Guys. Yeah, see you later.
Great. Good job. So it's like, oh yeah, it's the computer show. It's like, okay, great. Let me have it. She goes, well, the character's name's Maria. And I was like, what else would it be? Is there another name?
No.
Maria. And she's in jail. It's like, duh, she's not going to be the lawyer or the cop, is she? And she's very pregnant. And I was like, let me guess, it's her boyfriend, a drug dealer. She's like, we don't know that yet. But I felt that I owed it to Jen because Jen I love her work, I love her casting, and I know Genji, her work with Weeds and everything that she's done. So I knew that this was something special, but after that big letdown, I'd kind of just said, they're not going to pick me anyway. So why am I going to do this again? I'm going to waste all night, like going over these lines. I'm not going to sleep well. I'm going to get up, be all cranky. I'm going to be nervous all day. They're not even going to take me. That's kind of where my head was. And so it's like 12 o'clock, I'm in the office. 12:10, I'm in the office. Like, 12:15.
Can we get this
and
going?
Jen walks in. She's like, hi, Jess. I'm like, hi. And then she's like, come on, let's do it. And like, okay, let's read the lines. We're reading the lines? Okay, great. Okay, ready? We done? Good, great. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. And I think that's exactly what needed to happen to get
perfect for that character.
Maria came out that day, and she called me that week later, next day, and I worked later that week.
Wow, that's really incredible.
That was insane.
So that's an amazing
still
story.
Insane.
Yeah, no, honestly.
It's still insane to me that happened.
To think where you were here to where the show is now and where you are now.
I was done.
You were done. You were going to Microsoft.
Done.
That was it.
I was going to work on computers forever.
And you would have been happy. You would have figured it out. You still would have done some music.
I would have done something. I've been in Silicon Valley with some punk rock band in a garage somewhere. Some robots playing, alongside. I don't know what.
Electronica. It all goes back
some
to that.
electronica we would be inventing. So who knows? That's another dimension, though. That's the other, as they say.
Yeah, not in this reality.
No, the other one.
So the show starts.
Yes.
And you're putting all these women on the set. And it's an idea that is definitely out there that wasn't mainstream before this show.
No.
And then also it was on a platform where people weren't digesting content yet in such a main way.
Not at all. Netflix was still kind of the creepy guy that would come to your house and deliver you like a DVD or something. Like it would come to your mailbox.
Yeah, it comes in the mailbox. You're like,
that's weird. And then you mail it back and all that. And then I think House of Cards was already out. And that was the first thing that people were like, oh, this is interesting.
Let's binge watch this.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was really great. But I remember just waking up the next day after Orange came out, and it was like the world had exploded. It was just complete Armageddon of life. The phone was hot, and people that you hadn't heard from in 20 years found you, and you couldn't go outside, and it was just like overwhelmed. Like your IMDb, that you have this number rating or whatever on your this internet movie website, and we went from like 1 million to like 3.
Wow.
You're number 3 now in the world. You're like, what? I can't believe this. In the course of 24 hours, all of this happened, and it was phenomenal, mind-blowing.
Did you guys have a feeling that it would become some semblance of it?
I don't know. I think we knew we were doing something special and different, and there are a lot of great, special, different shows out there that don't hit like this. There's so much wonderful programming out there, so many great shows that people never hear of, but there was something about this that it was like
What do you think
meteoric.
It was? Because I think everybody has their
I don't know.
Reason.
I think
why
maybe
do you think
because it was just because we were not used to seeing so many women in a show. You're this jail thing that you're expecting, maybe it was all going to be violent, but it's actually funny, and you're laughing at places that you shouldn't, and you're seeing all types represented. You're seeing, different age range, different sizes, different races, different cultures, and this kind of quick, swift, smart timing tragedy thing that you really can't put your finger on, because sometimes you want to watch something funny,
right,
and sometimes you don't.
And it combines
this
a little bit of everything.
I mean, when you see episode 1 of season 6, it's going to be
oh boy, buckle up.
Really confusing, because you're going to be laughing at some really messed up things, and reality is very warped in this first episode, and our reality of the show is completely warped now. So all the scenery that all that vibe it's
a brand new
totally
vibe.
different.
Yeah.
So you're going to be even cinematographically speaking, it looks different as well.
So how much did you know about the prison system and just what women went through in prison prior to the show?
Not very much. Not very much. It's not something that I was ever exposed to or really had to deal with or concerned about. Mostly when we think of prison system, we think of men. But through the show, working with prisoners and dealing with Women's Prison Association, meeting women who were in halfway houses and things like that, really seeing how prison affected them, why so many go to prison for wrong reasons, things that they didn't even do, or self-protection or protection of their children. It's really been a fascinating thing. It's a fascinating journey to go on and meet people that are doing this.
Yeah, no question.
I'd never thought about what happens to a child born in prison.
Doesn't even cross your mind.
It's not really for me.
Sure.
But some people do worry about this on a daily basis.
And then there's multiple women in the show who have to go through that.
Who have to go through it. Yes, including me.
So what has been the most interesting part about playing this character? Because you're in prison and you give birth.
Yes.
Then you have this slow burn as you're starting to become more prominent.
Yes.
Right? And just all of the craziness involved. So what has been the most fascinating part of Maria?
I mean, Maria's arc is insane. Just the level of her depth of the story that she goes through. But just the fact that they can write her so powerfully strong and tough, hard as nails and concrete, but then this softness of a mother that I don't know which informs which. Is it that the love of her mother makes her so tough, or is she so tough that she can do whatever it takes to get her child? But one of the greatest moments I think so far is actually running into someone in the street that's screaming Maria, Maria, with tears in their eyes. And she says, I was a baby born in prison. Thank you for telling that story, but no one knows about us. So knowing that even if one person felt validated from my work or our work is made everything worthwhile. Because now people are thinking about that. Wow, I never thought that a child may be born in prison. The mother is handcuffed to a bed. Where's she going? Is she going to run? No. So bringing about humane issues and human condition to things that are happening all around us that we have no idea about has been just the most powerful, beautiful gift that I could ask for.
That's incredible. And just normalizing the women in this prison, because when you think of prison, you think of a certain person that's going to prison, but they're people just like us. And the really incredible thing about the show is that you can connect to every person
one
in that
way
prison.
or another.
Whether you're a man or a woman, you can connect to somebody in that prison.
Absolutely.
And so that's the other thing, too. As a man watching that show, you see the other men in the situation.
Yep.
And even just what the women are going through. It's just fascinating because every person in that show makes an impact on you, and it's unlike any other show I've ever watched.
I agree. I think every character is, you can find a bit of yourself in every single character, man or woman. I hate it when people say, oh, that's a girl show, woman show.
No,
not at all.
No,
not at all.
Watch it for 5 minutes.
Actually, a lot of girly girls don't like it. It's a little too rough sometimes for some people. It's definitely just a show about people.
Definitely.
And you see just all those different, crazy eyes, and how prison system is used in this context of psychology, of psychological and mental illness. It's did you think about that? How many sick people are locked up? I don't know. That's crazy. Things that she goes through, or just the bad upbringings and the self-defense cases, and just how people survive, and the trickery and the funny and the. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All the characters are wonderful.
No question about it. So when you think about the show, obviously from where it first was to now, cult sensation. How has it maintained consistency all these years to the point that when the show comes out, we were talking before, people will be binge watching the entire weekend.
Yeah.
And you will be hearing that theme song through the
all
walls.
over, through the thin walls of Brooklyn, of your houses in New York City. You will be hearing the animal, the animal.
You know it's summer when that song's
on.
on.
Everywhere. It's really surreal sometimes, especially if you live in buildings like mine that the walls are paper thin. I just laugh out loud because I'm also watching. And you fall asleep, the "Are you there" thing, and it just goes on forever. Sunday night, there's just pizza boxes everywhere and a mess.
Just a hot mess.
Just a hot mess in the house, but it's just amazing.
So you mentioned a little bit about season 6 and what people can expect.
Yeah.
As people watch it, what are you most excited for them to see this season?
We really, really push the boundaries of the depths of the stories, of the real emotional and the emotional value of the repercussions of the things that we have to go through. It's not going to be lightly dealt with. Basically, anything that happened in season 4 or 5 that's kind of been brewing will be dealt with. And it's dealt with in the most sincere and insightful and realist way that we could. So I won't say that it will be easy to watch.
Oh, that's intriguing. I like that. That sounds very good. All right, before we wrap things up, we're here in New York. You spent so much of your life here in the city, in Brooklyn, etc.
Yeah.
Give me some things you love to do in New York, whether it's a place to eat.
Oh man, this is how you ruin good spots, people. This is how you ruin good spots. I mean, I love to just walk in New York. New Yorkers, we're not really drivers. We have that subway. So what I like to do is I just love walking, and I find that I've lived here my entire life. I find something new every single day that I have never seen before, even on my own street. So I think that is something that is amazing. You can only do that in New York. I just put on some headphones and walk around, do all my errands, walking, and you really get to experience. So there's so much beautiful architecture here, so many beautiful parks. Central Park, if you want to spend a day, get lost there. I mean, a museum. Let's not even talk about museums. We can't even. That's just leave that. That's a whole nother level of.
It's a whole different conversation.
We're just overblessed sometimes, But I love, we have these new ferryways and waterways to get home. So living close to the water, it's really nice. Taking a trip home on a boat, it's really, really sweet. South Street Seaport area is really lovely. Times Square is always exciting. But we have our places where small businesses that our friends own, and we always go and support each other and hang out there. But there's so many little small businesses, small restaurants, local shops. So you can really, really support your local economy here, which I love in New York.
She's a woman of the people. She's one of the people here in New York.
Yes.
Jessica Pimentel, Orange is the New Black. Watch it this weekend. Jessica, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Here on The Sit Down.